Okay, it's going to the cloud for sure.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy April Fools, in case any of you are one. You can join me. Let's start with clearing here, and as we do with sound, and you can always smudge if you wish to. I turn to the west. Hail to the spirits that ride the west wind. You who come at the closing of the day, as we move into the time of creativity, the time of rest. Come, the time. Give us your learning and your vision that comes. Come, come. And I turn to the north. Hail to the spirits that ride the north wind. You who come out of the dark, bringing courage to us. Join with us. Give us courage to do our utmost explorations this evening. Come, come. And I turn to the east. Hail to the spirits that ride the east wind, you who come at the opening eye of the dawning morning sun. Come and join with us. Show us the kind of revelations that would illuminate our days. Come, come. Hail to the spirits that ride the south wind, you who bring us music and words and the light of the midday sun. Come, join with us. Give us the songs and the poetry and the prose to tell our tales. Come. And to the spirits of this place, the spirits of the land on which we stand. We are grateful to be here, and we are grateful for your hospitality. We are grateful for your signs of spring and new life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Father Sky, Mother Earth, ancestors, nature spirits, people of the Fae, all of us warmed by the great spirit fire. May you find this sweet. Hooray, hooray, hooray. We are here in this place now. Clay and water from the earth, sun and wind from the heavens, a divine home for soul, abiding at the center of our being, in the center of the worlds, on the threshold to the horizonless other world. We are here in this place now, and it's good. We're here, and again, welcome. Well, we're at session 13. Interesting number that in our culture, I mean, it's loaded with various cultural meanings. Some consider it bad luck. In the tarot, which I don't know much about, but in the tarot, it's the death card. In the major arcanum, which doesn't mean necessarily literal death, but a major transition, an ending and a beginning, which is rather appealing these days. And in Mongolian shamanism, that I was told, I'm told it's the luckiest of the numbers, the number 13.
Oh, 13 is the luckiest.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so, so here we are, our 13th session, um, which really isn't what we were going to talk about, but that's where we are. We're gonna talk about this thing about ancestral shamans and all of that. Before technology, yeah, before technology and the centralization of power, religion, and resources, we had to depend on each other and on a healthy relationship with the natural world and its seasons. This wasn't some new age counterculture thing or evidence of a spiritual quest like many of us are doing to try to recapture something. Um, this was the essential baseline for survival. It was not a luxury. And there was no Zoom or workshops to go find out about it. We lived it in those days. Okay? I mean, thus, our human ancestral heritage includes what's probably, I'm guessing, a universal experiences of direct connection with the deceased, with the spirit world of nature, and the seasons, and who knows what else. What it was like to live in those times. There's no television, and in addition to that, as I mentioned in yesterday's email, I suspect that every one of us. Well, anyway, let me first say that means that we all have in our ancestry those people that had direct that direct spirit contact in the natural world. We're the descendants of those people, or we wouldn't be here. Um, you know, and then, like I mentioned yesterday, I think we each we have had special people in our lineage who stood out from the others. And the reason I say that I really strongly suspect that, is you wouldn't be here. You're not exactly walking the mainstream path. There's something, that I think called you here. Even if it was initially curiosity, something's held you. And then, who knows, one of those ancestors may have been you in a previous incarnation. And so I suspect a lot of times we are our own ancestor. Um, and it's not unusual for people to come back into the same family line. It's not a rule that they have to, but anyway. Something else I had a thought about with that. Um, oh yeah, I know what it was. You'll notice, I think in something, I think it was in yesterday's the Monday missive. I mentioned the shamanic ancestors and the uncanny folk, or the canny folk rather. The canny people, if you probably know this, the canny folk well, were the kind of the what we now refer to as the witches and the herbalists, the people that knew stuff and could deliver babies. They helped people survive, and they were highly prized until church and state decided they wanted that authority and power. So that's what I was referring to with the canny folk there, or the wise ones, or holy ones. Who knows how many mystics might be in our background. Um, yeah, well, or in our own karmic memories, spending time in the cave, or on an island, or in the woods somewhere, or on a vision quest. Um, so the yeah, maybe that's enough to say. And any thoughts about that before we actually take the journey? Um, the thing I'm trying to really sort of press the point is, um, this is really used to be perfectly normal and nothing out of the ordinary to have a conversation with a tree or a stone, or take a dream seriously, you know, um, or talk to a deceased relative or friend. And well, we'll get to that in this second half of tonight. And so it's I guess what's in the back of my mind is, um, trying to make the point that, you know we're way closer to this than we think. We get caught up in jobs and grocery shopping, and enclosed in buildings, but that our separation is illusory. Um, Separation from that spirit world, the natural spirits, and all of that. So what I'd like to do, if nobody has any objections, is oh, yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say thank you to all the people who come. Thank you for Carl for leading this class. I just love gathering with a group of people who talks about this stuff. This has expanded my world and myself so much, and I just it feels so good and so wonderful, and I'm so grateful that I
Thank
can be part of this class or watch the recording, and I get so much out of it. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you,
We're
everybody.
glad you're here. Yeah, you've talked about some experiences at other times of things. Um, and a lot of I will add this. A lot of people have had uncanny experiences, but they don't share them. They gloss over them, dismiss them as unimportant, or if it is something significant, they keep it to themselves. When I was working in the schools, this happened mostly in Maryland, when I was then doing some ghost investigations. And on the come Thursday or Friday, the conversation is, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" And that's, "Well, I'm going ghost hunting." And some of the people would just sort of get this glassy-eyed stare, and they just back away, and that's all. It would be the end of that conversation, and it was like going into the abyss. But then other people would come back in private and say, "I've never told anyone this, but And they tell me about seeing their dead grandmother, or being contacted by something, or having a light in their room, or some what we would say paranormal event that was really significant in their lives, and they had no place to talk. They had nobody strange enough to talk to about it, or nobody outside of the trance of everyday living. Tom referred to that, and I'll come back to that later too. That thing about the trance. Thanks, Jill. Um, yeah, so this journey that I'd like to suggest is, let's take it for granted that somewhere in your ancestral line, every one of us, we've got some of those people, sort of wise, connected. Now, who knows how far back we have to go? Daniel 4, a shamanic practitioner, teacher, it makes a big deal about really only looking for the lighted ancestors, the ones that haven't already been wounded in their ancestral line. And I just say go back far enough. Let your helpers take you back as far as you need to go. If it's prehistory or if it's something you recognize, don't worry about that. I mean, what you really want to do is make a connection with that some wise figure in your line, and let your helpers. Now, whether that means you're going to go time traveling and go back in history and see them in their place where they were, which always interests me since I'm always in this past life stuff. Or they may, or your helpers may bring them here, or they may take you to some common place to go. So just sort of follow the direction of your helpers, but again with that intent of take me to a wise ancestor. Then have a conversation and ask them, what do I need to know? What do you see in your world that we're missing? Or they may have questions of you, like if you end up going back in time to their world, they may want to know something from you. And so and then they'll be telling the story about meeting a future descendant to their people, and so you could become part of that legend. So anyway, so go where they take you. The intent is to let me connect with a wise ancestor, and it could be a shamanic one, it could be some other wisdom tradition. They say the mystery schools started way back about 1300 some years BCE in Egypt, and so some of these traditions are pretty old, and that wouldn't have been even the first of the considerations. So I didn't. And sometimes I think the more I talk about it, the more confusing it gets, at least in my head. So we want to ask the helpers to take us to a wise ancestor and then have that conversation. And I'm thinking it will take a plenty of time here, so maybe about 13, 12, 14 minutes, something like that. Anything to be shared from this? Perhaps some wisdom that we all need to hear. First, did you find somebody? Okay.
Hi. I don't know that my person had wisdom to share so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I didn't travel anywhere. And at first I was a little confused by what this journey might be like. But I just kept seeing one of my grandmother's names
Uh,
and her gravestone and seeing like pictures that I remembered and all these things, just all these memories. And then I thought, well, maybe this is who I'm visiting. And maybe she wants to talk to me. And as soon as I thought that, it was like she was there to talk to me. And um, she said a lot of things I never kind of realized about her and her life.
uh,
And it was so interesting and eye opening. And she said that she felt so out of place in the world that she knew so many things. She knew when people were going to call. She knew when she was going to get a letter. She knew what was in the letter. She knew what was going on in people's lives, but that she didn't feel like she could tell anyone any of these things because it was so uh, unusual to her and felt
mm-hmm.
scary
Mm-hmm.
and like she just couldn't talk about it. And she tried to drown it out with different things in her life and never could get away from it.
Uh,
And so she always felt alone. And some of the words that she used were like alone and caged and afraid because she didn't know what was going on or why her. And she felt really sad about that she never was seen or heard for herself and kind of that part of herself.
uh,
I would never have thought about that, guessed that.
yeah. Yeah, and you're attending to her. I'm sure brought or brings comfort. Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Jill. Yeah, I'd say we this thing of what's normal and abnormal or out, out of normal. Psychologists. I mean, we have diagnoses for people that do what we're working hard to do, um, to hear voices and contact people that nobody else sees and that sort of thing. Um, and we've been, I, I, I think we've been terrorized by church and culture. I mean that terrorized literally. We've been threatened with eternal damnation in hell. If we don't conform and sort of take only from that centralized authority that tells us what we can see, not see, hear, not hear, know or not know. But the reality is, we're connected to other things. And so I think that's been a great soul loss in culture. And people like Jill's grandmother. And I'm sure we've had similar experiences where you really had to hold your tongue because you knew how it would be taken. and sometimes within your own family. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I had a interesting journey, shall we say. I went with a couple of my guides who are, I would say, ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And we went, I don't know where we went, but far away. And we saw this person in the mud, kind of with her arms sticking out of the mud. And we went over to this person and we helped it get up out of the mud and asked who they were. And um, it was a them, it was a he, she, it was a transgender person. And this person was very happy to see us. And I didn't get that far in the journey, but the question that this person kept asking me and my guides was, is it safe? Is it safe now? Is it safe now? And I'm not sure how to interpret what their meaning, but for me, it almost feels like it's a time travel where maybe um, those ancestors or shamans are wanting to maybe come forward into our lives, but asking, is it safe? And what's the answer? It's no, it's not safe right now. Yes, it has been. No, it isn't. I mean, I didn't give an answer, but it feels like I want to go back and complete that journey because I'm not quite sure what it was all about. But there was an urgency, like it almost felt like they can help, but is it safe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean I think that's kind of the crux of our cultural situation too. Really, this connection. It's like when you take a rubber band and you just pull it further and further apart. It gets too far apart, and something's got to give. And it wants to pull things back, and a lot of those atypical people were seen as divine because they saw more. They saw from a different perspective, and this thing about is it safe now? I think that is our question. Is it safe? Like in this community, our community, it's safe. So it kind of depends. It's like that joke. There's the guy sitting under a tree in a straitjacket, and then there's the yogi hanging upside down from a branch, and the guy in the straitjacket says, "Hey, how come I'm down here, confined, and you're just up there hanging around?" And the yogi in the tree says, "Well, I know who not to talk to." So anyways, so we can invite those people into our community, and try to expand the community where it is safe, because we need them too. I think. Yeah. Thanks, Brenda. Maybe the next journey there'll be something to. You might want to continue this one. Anyone else? Terry, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was. So I had a very similar experience like Jill, what Jill had talked about, where I was taken to a house that was in a forest, and it was way far away from any place. And um, I was led through the door, and there was a woman, and she was seated, and she was like obviously teaching this group. There was a whole other group of people in the house, and I knew she was like a grandmother, so like one of my great 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 grandmothers. And um I asked I asked her if was she a shaman? Was she a teacher? And she said she was, but it was hidden and it was shameful, and nobody could know about it, and I wasn't supposed to tell anybody that I was there, that I had seen her. It was scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it made me think, this is the path that I've been on. I don't talk about it a lot to people that I don't I talk it. I mean, if people know me, and I'll tell them about it, but I don't really share it that much with anybody, because I think I'm still carrying that sort of that this is not to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had just quick share a story that my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, um, when I was in my 20s, I was called to go and clean for her. This was shortly before she was starting to lose her memories, and it was Alzheimer's or dementia, and they were unsure of her being alone in the house. And I would go and clean for her once a week, and for about a year. And she would always make me coffee at some point and a little lunch. She called it a little lunch. And she would tell me stories that she had never talked about with anybody else. And some of them were very shamanic.
Mm.
And she kept saying, well, people wouldn't believe me if I told them this story.
Uh-huh.
So it made me think that, there's some stuff in our family that wasn't talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, there's stories. I mean, go in history. Sort of a side note here on. I mentioned I just submitted this last book on the end of karma for publishing, and there's stories, and I think there's stories in probably every one of the books about the wise people or the herbalist or the midwives, whatever, getting found out, and then being executed or tortured or really unpleasantly dealt with by church and state. And so, I mean, that's in our consciousness, our collective consciousness of that too. I mean, they can't cut your tongue out now, but that was the old days. They could, But hopefully we can go back to even older days. Before, as Michael Harner put it, before we descended into the morass of civilization. One of his phrases I just loved. Anybody else? Yes, Andy.
So went with guides and just followed blindly. They sort of were kind of misty, not their usual look. So I was concentrating very much on like following them, and found myself like at the rim of what felt like a volcano, not like active, but just on that rim where you could see down. I'm very aware of a lot of sky above and that space below. And the person I met was also kind of vague. And I was starting to, like before, a lot of times we've asked questions. And so I asked, is there anything to know about or that you could tell me about herbs or medicines or helping people? I was getting a whole lot. I've been a nurse. Is there anything? And then I just got this image of, I recognize this symbol. It looks weird, but it was sort of a religious symbol with a loop. I can't get it on there. Sort of like instead of a cross, it has that loop on the top.
Oh.
I recognize
Something
it.
like this?
Like that. Yeah, it looked like that. And that was, all of a sudden that came out and it was like, and this is sort of like my garment. The loop was the hood. and the line, the shoulders, and the vertical line, the robe. So it was kind of the garment. And it was also a tool. It looked like a scoop
Mm,
that scooped things, and also connector. That was a big word. Connector between there and here. Like I'm the conduit, or this is
mm,
what it was. Just a lot of sensing
uh-huh.
of that, but that kind of vision of that symbol, but it's a useful thing. It's not like a holy thing or something. This is useful. This is real life, and here's how it connects and flows through. I don't know. It's hard to put into words.
Yeah, I think that's a lot to contemplate. What I have here, that symbol is the Ankh,
That's
and
the word I couldn't. Yeah.
yeah, it's the Egyptian hieroglyph for life. And there's a very similar one with the loop is kind of folded over, and it's called the Knot of Isis. And these weren't these holy things, in those days. These holy things were very useful. It was about survival, and our relationship with the divine and with people. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. It was a neat. I really felt the sense of the role of this person is this connector,
Mm-hmm.
about connection, about between, and having, I don't know, people, different realms, something meet somehow.
Yeah,
So
neat. Thanks, Sandy. Well, mine, I've done a bunch of that ancestral healing stuff. Some of you've done it too, and mine went right back to First, it went right back to a couple of those really old ancestors, and each was like, "Let me remind you about something you should be doing." um, and then I was thinking like, okay, because there's somebody new here I can talk to, because I was just getting tasks. And then there were just a couple of people, one on a mountain and one right on the edge of the sea, overlooking the sea. That were just like they were sort of like, just be quiet and sit down. You know, and there were some other things of like, again, like reminders of things I should be paying attention to or doing, like greeting the sun more more earnestly. I sort of do it anyway, but more earnestly. Like the Egyptians would have done it, and some stuff about song or chant there. So yeah, so it was like, just do your work. Get busy here. Anybody else? One more? No? All right. Well, why don't we take a break? And is 8 minutes good? So 5 after the hour. Okay. See you then. Okay. Thanks, Ann. I had a couple thoughts in the break. One is, oops, I think I've probably mentioned this before, and I've said it in so many different places. The Mongolians, at least the traditional Mongolians' idea of the triple soul, that we all have three souls, and one of those is an ancestral soul. That is, when we're born, there's this some ancestor comes and their soul comes and joins with us for the duration of life, and so that's also another presence we might feel. And another one of our souls is that when we die, that soul hangs around for some generations as kind of a family advisor, or hoping to trying to help the family out. Um, and it's not a surprise if we end up, really strongly connecting with one of our not too distant ancestors, at least in their view. And then the third soul is our karmic soul, the one we usually think of as having one life after another. Um, so that was one of the thoughts. Um, seems seems to me there was some. Well, I guess not that important. Right, so again, this thing of so many people um, having these uncanny experiences that remain secret. Um, it, uh, it makes it sound like the paranormal is not normal. That it's the mystery. There's the mysteries out there. Whatever. But I would say life itself is the great mystery. What's it doing here to begin with? And that so that these mysteries that we seek, maybe just speaking for myself, these mysteries that we seek is right here. Again, begin where we are. That's where the magic is. And so, yeah. So anyway, moving on. Here, there are two things out of Tom's book, out of the second set of the pages. As he said, the dead are with us in subtle and not so subtle ways, often nudging us out of the trances induced by everyday life, so that we wake up to their presence in our lives. And I like that the way he put that. That trance of everyday life that we just sort of like fall into and do the same thing over and over again. And that there are those spirit ancestors and spirit helpers, and they're like, hey, pay attention. There's something else going on out here. And now what Tom focused on here was that this, as he said, the spirits use synchronicities to keep us mindful of their continuing life in the next world, and to keep their spirits alive in this world, especially in our minds and hearts. So, any thoughts about any of that? Synchronicities that you've noticed, or nudges that you've gotten about. There's something else out there. There's something more going on. And I don't mean the paranoid conspiracy theory type things that we see around us. But you know what I mean about that's a very solid kind of unknowing.
Carl, this may be
Yeah.
entirely off topic, but um, I was thinking about, how we all have these deja vu moments, or people call it that anyway.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder how much of that is just ancestors coming forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's off topic at all. I think that's yeah. I'll give you my theory of life is that everything's consciousness, and so it can come through our ancestors. It can come through our own memories. Somebody else's memory might impinge and say, "Hey, I remember this," you know.
I would just like to
I
add,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, I just would like to, when you're talking about synchronicities, I really love synchronicities and serendipity. And so oftentimes my morning affirmations, I'll ask to bring in synchronicities and serendipities, but I put a caveat and I say um, fun synchronicities and serendipities because I don't want to, they could be different than fun synchronicities. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, I try to be more aware, training myself to be aware of synchronicities, and they're all around us. They're all
Yeah.
there. We just have to show up for them, I think.
Yeah, well said. We have to show up for them. And discretion is the better part of valor. So you can specify. Yeah, we have to show up. Yeah, Terry, were you gonna?
Yeah, I was going to talk about a little about some of the experiences I have in our forest in Wisconsin. There there's it's just I can't you can't make this stuff up. But if I were to tell people, they might think I was making it up. But I've heard singing in the forest, and I sing all the time in the forest. But and I actually had it happen one time that some other people were at the cabin and we were on the porch, and they heard the singing.
Uh,
So yeah, stuff like that. And then another incident happened one time. Um, I my grandmother was a she was one of those that called the cows. She was Swedish, and she so she could do cooling. Um, and so I sometimes would, when I first heard about this, what it was really called, that it was called cooling, I would practice it, in the woods because nobody's around to hear me because it's kind of, high pitched and you don't want to do it in this, go out in your city block and do it. Somebody might think you're in trouble. But I would go out in the woods and practice this. And the very, very first time I did this, honest to God, I can't make this up. I was out in the woods and I had gone off the path and I was, kind of bushwhacking and I was coming up a hill and it was a steep hill and I kind of had to crawl a little bit, and I got down on my hands and my hands were on the ground. And you may not believe this, but I felt something in the ground.
mhm.
And I pulled it up and guess what it was? It was a cowbell. A cowbell. I pulled it, an old rusted cowbell, still with the clanger in it. And I couldn't believe it because it was like, what? I was just calling the cows. I get this. So I still have it. And one of my other teachers, Jamie Meyer, told me that I should use it as a tool.
More cowbell.
But that's
Yeah.
synchronicity.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Well, I mean, the old Irish tradition is in the hillsides are the fairy folk, and people would spend the night out there, sometimes then hearing fairy music that they'd try to duplicate. Um, so you're in a great tradition there. I got a fairy cowbell. Yeah.
Well, this isn't really a synchronicity, but it's a sign, I think. And
Mhm.
I will get often several times a day, I'll be thinking about something and I don't really have an answer to a problem to solve or something.
Mhm.
And the idea will come to me and it's something I never would have thought of. And
Mhm.
I know it's coming from out there, the other world, ancestors, my guides, something.
Mhm.
And I always say thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
And I think the more I acknowledge it, the more it happens.
Mm.
And sometimes it'll come that I've forgotten something and that I'm supposed to do or show up for, and I get reminded just in time. Yeah, I really thank them for that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, thanks, yeah. Yeah, people ask, I heard people asking Tom Cowan about, like, well, this happened to me, this synchronicity, what does that mean? And his answer was, well, sometimes God just winks at you. Just a reminder. It's just a reminder that there's another world. That we're not out here sort of on the edge of something by ourselves. Sometimes God just winks at us. Um, but a cowbell seems like more than a wink. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, now for this next journey, my original idea was just to connect with your helpers to ask about how to open to signs more so. Well, like Anne's got it, and Brenda are doing this like quite regularly. Um, to open to signs and synchronicities, and you can do that if you want. But another suggestion I have is to continue with the first journey, because it sounds like there were a number of us that's like, okay, this one isn't finished, and I need to go back and sort of like either deepen it or broaden it or something. That there's more to be done with that, and so feel free to do that. If you have a still better idea, go ahead. um, okay. So about 11 minutes, I guess, we'll go. And just, another question, here's another idea, is if you want to go and ask, are there synchronicities happening that I've missed? If you want to go through the synchronicity question, or take the other path and just deepen where we've been so far. It's your choice. Here's my cowbell. Okay, any thoughts that who extended like who deepened the previous one? I did. Any comments at all?
I'll go. So this person, he, she person,
Mm-hmm.
was right there waiting for us to come back and talk with them. And the answer was yes, 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 it is safe. It is safe. And this unequivocally yes came from me, but just from another source too. I mean, just this yes, yes, yes. And it just sounded like they've been waiting to hear that. This person or whatever community has been waiting to hear that. And the answer from this person was that they are coming back for healing of ancestor healing of my family or families, and also yes to my communities. You are safe. Please come. So it was a nice ending to the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Thanks, Brenda.
I went back and talked with my grandmother some more,
Uh-huh.
and she had a lot to say about like her life and her relationships with her different children, and brought up things that she and I used to do together that I'd forgotten about. And I was just so grateful to have her in my life and just remember these things that made my young years so, I felt so loved by her.
Mm,
And I didn't really feel that in too many other places. So she was very significant. And it was like this beautiful reminder and connection. And I feel like maybe now I can talk to her some more.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's clearly walking with you, wanting to connect, or or at least now, feeling open to do that, by your invitation. Nice job.
Well, I started my journey um, with synchronicities,
Uh-huh.
if if I have the definition correct. But when I travel, um, I inevitably it it can be on a cobblestone road, it can be in a beach, it can be in a mountain, in a village. I'll bend over and pick up a rock. And even though I know in some places it's forbidden to remove the rock, and if it is, I'll pause and hold the rock and replace it, but more often than not I retain it. So I have rocks from far and wide, right? And I was thinking of that. We were in Norway in September, and we were at an ancestral farm, and we were shown the original stone foundation of the old house, a very small little area, and it was mounded. And I just started walking around it. And as I was doing that, I was just moved that I wanted to feel the energy of that place. And I picked up 4 rocks. And one was for Brenda, and one was and 2 were for my 2 daughters, and 1 for myself. And they were very small little stones.
Hmm.
And as I continued to walk around, I was holding these rocks, and in the foundation appeared, and I've got a picture of it, it's just wild, is the bust of a woman that is part of the earth, with her, you could see her her large arms coming across, kind of folded in front, and she was just so part of the earth, and it was just so obviously, um, to me, an ancestor that was still living, in that mound, right? And I think of the synchronicity of the steps that I've walked on, the stones in the Potala in Lhasa, and how old and ancient they are, and how many bare feet have walked across them you know, to make them as pitted as they are. And it just kind of reminded me to go back again to to seek that synchronicity of what is in the earth and what is there waiting for me, and waiting for me to notice it, and inviting me to become part of it, I guess. And yeah, it was just lovely. It was like, go back to your rocks, Naomi. Go back to your crystals. Go back to the obsidian. Go back to those Z beads, and just bless them again, and get my energy again from them, because I haven't played with them for a while. And so it was just kind of a reminder, get back to the earth. So it was good.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think who else has rocks that they've called?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But is that synchronicity? I mean, when you suddenly stop and bend over and pick up that pebble as opposed to any other pebble.
I don't know if I'd call that synchronicity necessarily, but it's in that same realm.
Yeah.
Is in that sense why that stone that I mean I
Why
think
that
that
stone?
stone
Yeah.
called to you.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
that stone's intention
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for you.
Yeah.
So you were
It's
responding to
possible.
its attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, yeah. I've done some similar things with in certain places, and ask, is there something here? Is there a stone here, or whatever? And I've gotten some real yeses of things, and kind of some surprising things. So yeah, any others? I went back to the just to extend more of looking for the wise people, the wise guys in the ancestral neighborhood, and like it was like suddenly was faced with well a spirit teacher that I encountered. It's over a quarter of a century ago, more than 25 years ago, in Ireland. Um, Kind of showed up and has a purpose, and is going to be involved in writing my next book. So he said, promises, promises. Um, so we'll see. So it was quite a I don't know, it was quite a moving reunion there. So someone else?
Oh, I think I mentioned this before that my friend who is Ojibwe always says, "May the soles of your feet know the tears of your ancestors." And I've often thought about that because I think sometimes when I was younger, when I'd be walking out in the fields and stuff, you could stop and you'd be kind of like, "My grandfather stood here."
Uh,
And so it is kind of an interesting concept, and not really in a negative way, even though at first I thought maybe this is kind of sad, but it really isn't when you think about it. The other thing, I went back as well, and the second one wasn't any more than the first one, except I keep going back, and this is not the first time, to what is like a small fishing village,
mm,
and there's always a gentleman who doesn't speak, and but it's peaceful and it's calm and it's quiet and it's very nice. And then it occurred to me today that this is something because if my ancestors were fishermen, which I thought they were all farmers and carpenters, that's really disturbing because I hate fish. So,
You may have had just enough. You had your fill of fish. You know. Huh. Yeah, that yeah, I do want to like and sort of go back to Naomi's question. Yeah, the signs. Well, what was it? The signs, synchronicities, secret signs and synchronicities. Whatever. There were the three things. That's a there's subsections of a broader category that I would just say connections. You know, the and teasing and nudges from the other side. So it all counts. You may get a, you know, you're driving somewhere, you may get an impulse to just sort of stop, you know, and look at something there, or stop and take notice of the view for a change instead of driving through. And in a way, it's you know, in a way, it's learning to attend, like was it Jill used the phrase show up for, you know, show up for that. Um, that even your own impulse, of course, with discretion. Okay, anybody else? Anything to about anything?
Well, I find it interesting you talk about attending and paying attention um, to those synchronicities. Um, when I think about it, I'm more attuned to that, or it seems to occur to me more when I travel, when
Mm.
I'm in a novel situation, than when I'm at home, right? And I just wonder if I'm kind of in a different headspace. Um,
Hmm. I'd
yeah.
say absolutely yes, and I think that quote that I read of Tom's of you've left the trance of everyday life, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
suddenly there's new.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And I think there are brainwave states that relate to this too.
Hmm.
I don't get too technical, but you know, we've got our the beta brainwave state that's our sort of alert problem solving that we're in a lot of the time. You know, we're trying to figure something out. We've got something to deal with. The world is chaotic and creates anxiety, and that just adds to the beta brainwave states. But there's that relaxed, open, as you're relaxed but still alert, the alpha state. And it tends to happen if we just close our eyes. I mean, people made a lot of money about the alpha state, but you can get there, just sort of close your eyes and relax a little bit. Um, so you're relaxed but alert, like I said, and that's a more open state of consciousness. Um, and then because the next level down is the theta state, and that's when you're basically entranced, you're internalized, and less less attending to the outside world. And then there's delta, that's when you're asleep. And so some of that has to do with our culture. Our culture, I think, is sort of designed to keep us hyper alert, productive, problem solving, uh, and and addicted to 24/7 news feeds and that constant stimulation that keeps us from actually thinking. We have thoughts, but they're not our thoughts. They're, you know, it's the thoughts put into us. We're not actually thinking, um, and so just spending that time, um, you know, like Naomi saying, you go on a trip. It's new. You actually look at things, and it's different, and the smells are different, you know, and the accents and the language. It's different. And so you have a different attentiveness. And so your attention really, I think your attention is one of the most powerful tools you have. Jill's attention to her grandmother brought healing there. Um, you know, Terry's attention got her a cowbell. um, again, because she was following that impulse to sing there and to go bushwhacking. So yeah, you've got magic in you. You just have to show up for it. That's the thing. This has been exciting for me. I don't know about you guys. This was good for me. So I'll close out and the formal part and then hang out if anybody's interested there. And to the spirits that ride the west wind, we thank you for the things that we've learned here and the visions of things that have been and things that are being. But the time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits that ride the north wind, thank you for coming here out of the dark and helping to complete our own vision and put us in touch with the source of things. The time of parting has come. Go if you must. Stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To the spirits that ride the east wind, thank you for the opening eye of revelation here, of these discoveries we've made, or rediscoveries. The time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits that ride the south wind, we thank you for being here and giving us the words to tell our stories. The time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. And to the spirits of this place, those who surround us, uphold us, the earth on which we walk, the sky overhead. I give thanks for your hospitality and for being granted that point of life that joins earth and sky. We thank you. It's done.